Hey guys, what is up? This is Krazak here, and welcome back once again to another one of these podcasts. You guys have enjoyed them, and it's been a while since I've done it, and I've told you that I've been working with some hard material. To be honest, it was really difficult to figure out what I should be bringing to you guys, and just the topics at hand, whatever I chose would have been hard. But after doing some thinking for a while, and after just how life ended up happening, it ended up where I am able to bring this to you now. Now, the topic at hand is one that I've often wondered whether or not I should be bringing to you. Whether it's something that is necessarily safe or comfortable or whatever. And you know what? To be honest, it's not. Not to say it's bad, but just to say it's not comfortable. It's not one of those ones where it's a safe topic for people to talk about. No. What happens here is talking about things like why do people suffer? Why does life happen the way that it does? Why do bad things happen to good people? And trying to think of that, I haven't necessarily come to an answer, which might sound a bit weird that I'm speaking on this if I haven't found an answer. What am I doing speaking on a topic where I don't necessarily have an answer? And that is that in my experience, I can speak to it. And there is really no one who can say that I'm wrong because it's my story. And I'm not saying that to be like rude or whatever. I'm saying this is my story. You have to respect it for what it is. And yes, well, it is my story, and I'm asking you to be respectful of it. It's not something where I'm demanding you to do something because I've chosen that this is the time to make it known. No, I'm saying this is a hope that it will be helpful and useful to you and where you are in life. But as such, suffering is still a really, really hard, a brutal topic to discuss, and has taken me several weeks, in fact, maybe even a couple months, to be able to actually bring it about. Like, if I'm remembering right, I wanted to bring this back to you around Easter time, but no, just I had to put it away. I had to choose something else because it isn't an easy topic, and it's not going to be an easy topic really ever for anyone. There's a lot that goes into this, a lot of psychology, a lot of philosophy, a lot of even theology. But even so, it doesn't necessarily give us a direct answer, which is what makes it so hard. Just how can bad things happen to good people? How can the good die young? How can bad people get away with doing the things they do for so long without any form of punishment, without any form of rebuke? And that's what makes it really hard. And I'm hoping, even though I might not have all the answers, that I can at least speak into this because I've come from an experience of this, and my family as well. I'll talk about that later, but just saying that this is my story. This is something where it's not necessarily easy to talk about. If I kind of ramble on, I'm hoping that you guys are understanding of that it is not and has never been an easy topic for me to speak into. But at the same time, I don't want that to stop me. So, here we go. Now, growing up at home was difficult. I mean, sure, there are things about being a kid where it's like, okay, yeah, some of those are just inherent with being the age that I was, being as young as I was, not having the experiences. But another part of that was I grew up in an abusive household where my father, well, he wasn't physical, really. He would mess with our emotions, with our psychology, where mentally, socially, it was awkward. We were in an abused state where you wouldn't be able to tell necessarily from the outside, where everything looked fine on the outside, but inside was very difficult. And it's a bit hard to explain how things like manipulation and messing with emotion can really go into abuse. But yet it's a very real thing. It's a very acknowledgeable thing. And it's hard to talk about, it's hard to pinpoint, but it does exist. Which perhaps makes the situation even harder. Because things like this exist, how are they allowed to keep going? How do we deal with them? But at the same time, it's not the same as, say, physical abuse, where, as rough as it may sound, people are literally beaten for this kind of thing. I'm very fortunate to come from a situation where no, nobody laid a hand on me as far as that kind of abuse. I'm very thankful for that, and I apologize. I sincerely apologize if this has been you, because I know what it's like, and I know the damage that it does. But just what does this say about humanity? What does it say about human nature? That as good as people might want to be and have the desire to be, as good as they think they can be, that it's not going to be everything that we'd hoped for. That there are, in fact, broken people. That we do, in fact, come from a place where people aren't necessarily responsible for the powers and responsibilities that they have. And they act that out on their families, on their friends. And you may wonder why. Why are these things allowed to exist? To be honest, I still struggle with that. And more than that, if I'm a person of faith like I've claimed to be, how can I handle these kinds of things? How can I come to terms with things like suffering? And this, I guess, is where I get into the other part of the story. When it comes to where my mother has been, and how she grew up, and how she taught my brother and I. Because she, however bad I've had it, she had it worse. I know that. She was never in an easy place. It was never allowed to just be easy for her. She grew up in a household where her parents were alcoholic. Alcohol, being addictive in nature, can be very dangerous. And as such, she had to deal with a lot of anger, a lot of yelling, a lot of discipline that wasn't necessarily her fault. Into her teenage years, into her adult years even, she had other difficult things that she had to deal with. And I'm not going to go into all of them. No, they're not for here. But just in saying that that's how my mother grew up. That's how her experience came in. And then that's part of an anger. Because my mother was also very strong in faith. She was someone who I could look up to, someone who could speak into my life, as well as other people. Other people listened to her, other people respected her. And yet, at the same time, the truth of the matter is, the same fate comes into question again. About a year and a half ago now, I believe, is when she actually passed away. For all that she'd been through, for making it through all of the struggles and all of what she's grown up with, she eventually had a struggle with a sickness and passed away. And just bringing into question again, why do the good die young? Why do bad things happen to good people? She certainly didn't deserve that. She didn't do anything to bring that on. But yet that's what happened to her. Was it fair? No. I think it's fair to say life isn't fair. But at the same time, it's more than just, oh, is that fair? Is life fair? No. There's a certain aspect of, I guess you could say, even social or cultural justice, where you know when someone deserves something and when someone doesn't. And when life is fair, as in life is going out normally, whether or not you win or lose, and whether it happens before their time. Someone dies too young. Someone is hurt in a way that never should have been done, never should have been exercised. And there's a lot of truth to that. That even though you guys aren't necessarily religious, that there is some greater form of morality or ethics that you guys hold yourself to. And it doesn't have to be spoken. It's there. It's the same reason that most of us can agree that someone like Hitler was wrong in what he did. It goes into existentialism. Does life have meaning? And looking into this, I've spoken recently into this, that the concept of meaninglessness falls apart when I intrude upon what you define as meaningful. If existentialism were right, for instance, then give me your wallet, give me your phone. I'm going to take them. And who's to say that I'm in the wrong? Because it would be meaningless anyway. But this is just a short way to get away from the point. This is a way to feed into it, but no. If you guys want me to talk more on existentialism, I will. I'll gladly talk more on it. But here is not the time or the place. But the point that I am going to prove here, or trying to prove here rather, is that you guys know what is fair. You guys know what is good, what is just, what is even true in a lot of ways. There's a foundational truth, a foundational realism that cannot be denied, in which you know that these things shouldn't happen. That these things are out of place, that they're not normal. That it's not just life being unfair. That's something far beyond that. And then to come to terms with that, some people ask, some very smart people ask, if God exists, then how can he allow this to happen? It's been a question for great many years. Speaking into it, I believe that it is against his will. It's not something that he desires to happen. But because of loving his creation so much, because of giving us the freedom to choose, and as well as we have the freedom to love him, we have the freedom to hate him. As much as we have the ways of giving life, the ways of saving lives, we also created in humanity the ways to destroy them. And I don't think for an instant that's necessarily what he wants to happen. That he has a reason why he did this. How could I, under this understanding, if I were to go with this understanding, then it would be fair to say, how could I love a God who killed my mom? But yet this isn't my understanding of it. This isn't the way that I understand it. No. And looking into it, that God is one who understands suffering, because he himself has gone through suffering. And you may be wondering, how is that even possible? How could a God, an all-perfect and all-powerful being, go through suffering, understand what it means to suffer? And that answer would be found in the name of Jesus. Now, some of you may be cynical about it. Understandable. Fair enough. I understand why. And that's the very reason why I try and keep topics like this sensitive. Because not all of you who watch my channel are necessarily involved in a church somewhere, or affiliated religiously, or whatever you want to call it. You may not understand, and that's okay. You may not want to understand either. And I respect that. I'm not going to force that on you. But as you're here, you've made the choice to listen to what I have to say, to allow me to speak into your life, to figure out how in the world is this going to end? Does it even end? And I think that's a part of this journey. It's a part of finding out who we are, where we are, what we're doing, all of this. And though no, it doesn't necessarily make for easiest or best of things, or anything simple. It does at least help us to look into it. Now, give me a moment here. I'm going to just kind of fly away as I look through some stuff. But, yeah. It's true that we suffer, and have suffered for many years. People have suffered through wars, and torture, and slavery, and things like that. Suffering isn't something that is new. But could it be something that, as it is a part of our reality, that we're called to deal with, that we have to find a way to cope with? We have to find a way, possibly to help others. Maybe that is part of how we answer it. Maybe of why we are allowed to suffer. Not because it is necessarily the will of a God that we are suffered, that we're punished unnecessarily. But in that, when it does happen, that we're able to help each other through it. That we're able to offer a helping hand, to say, hey, I've been there. You are not alone. As for me, I have gone through an abusive home life growing up. I have lost my mother too early. as well as other things. Can't necessarily think them at the moment, being honest with you, but it has been along the road. It has been something where I can relate, where I know what it is to be lonely, where I know what it is to lose, and where I doubt for a moment that there is any desire for me to lose what I had, but even in doing so, the situation can still be used. And what we've had doesn't go to waste. And this is a hard message to digest. And it's hard to imagine a higher power that wills something like this on us. I don't think that that's necessarily true. That I think there is a higher power, but he doesn't will this to happen to us. He doesn't say, hey, this is going to happen to this person on this day, and I'm going to cause it. No. But rather, being there for us, through us, with us. Either way, though, guys, this has been my story. This is where I'm at. And while no, I don't necessarily have all the answers, I don't need to have all the answers. I have hope, but it's not just that if you've been around for long enough, you know, like, it's not just a blind hope. That's not what I encourage here. But yet, that's the journey. That's part of where we're at. Where no, it's not going to be easy. No, it's not going to be a cakewalk. But even our channel, even a channel here, we've become a community. We've become a group of people who have come together to find out, hey, this is where we're at. This is the road that we're on. This is the journey that we've been making. And perhaps that's what it means to navigate the sea of suffering. And perhaps, as long as we're alive, we won't have a true answer to why we suffer, or why good people can have bad things happen to them. And I certainly don't. I wish I did. I wish that I could have all the answers. But it's one of those cases where I have to trust, where because I've had this faith, because I believe there is evidence to be able to trust, to be able to believe, this is one of those points in time in which I have to say faith, because faith, as people say, where people get cynical. And in fact, I even get frustrated sometimes. No, this isn't one of those cases. It's one of those things where it, to be honest, far exceeds my understanding. Where I've got nothing but my experience to go on here. Yes, while I've been able to talk a lot about philosophy, a lot about psychology, mentality, the way things work, that sometimes there just isn't answers. And better yet, it's sometimes better to say that you don't have the answer, and that you don't have all the answers. And I'm willing to admit, I certainly don't. I know for a fact that I don't have all the answers. And if I've gotten details wrong, then sure, I'm willing to grow. I'm willing to make that adventure. I'm willing to grow in knowledge and figure out what's going on. But either way, guys, if you've been sticking around this long, just thank you. It really has meant a lot. And again, it's always been a hard topic for me to discuss. So I'm hoping you're listening and that you can respect where I've come from and how this video has been a bit of a different style. But you know, that's okay. Really appreciate it, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing anyway. Because right now, this is where I'm doing some of my best work. It's crazy to be seeing that, but just in being able to make that journey. I really appreciate you guys coming along for the ride. Yeah, it is hard sometimes. I'm wanting you to know, I guess in the long run, that no, you're not alone. But there are people out there, there are people who have had similar experiences, people who have been making the journey just like you. And perhaps you needed to hear that. If so, then hey, I'm doing my job right here. Because I don't know everything that's going on in your life. If I did, then I don't think you guys would be comfortable with that. But even so, I guess all I can say here is thank you. Other than that, guys, I think this is it. So, without any further ado, this has been Krazak, signing out. See ya.